अपार सच्चित् सुगवारि राशेः यस्योर्म्यमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि अंतर्यश्च बहिर्विदुदतिविरं ज्योतिर्मयं शाश्वतं स्थानं प्राप्य विराजते विनमतामज्ञानमुन्मूलयन् पश्यन् विश्वम् अपीतम् उल्लसति यो विश्वस्य पारे परः तस्मै श्रीरमणाय लोकगुरवे शोकस्य हन्त्रे नमः। अरुणाचलं नमो रमणाय नमो रमणाय। So in our previous session, when we stopped, when we broke off, we completed the first 15 slokas of Upadesa Saram, written by Bhagavan, originally written as Upadesa Undiyar in Tamil, under the behest of Muruganar, for the sake of to fill in the Upadesa given by Lord Shiva to the Darukavana rishis, and while doing that, which actually featured this Upadesa Undiyar featured in a big poetry called Thiru Undiyar, which talked about the leelas of various lords in form of all of them. Murugan are seeing them as Bhagavan Ramana. So that happened, and that featured in a very big one of the best stuti collection of Murugana written on Bhagavan called Ramana Sannidhi Murai. Sri Ramana Sannidhi Murai is the name of the book. It contains about 126 poems, out of which one of them is Tirundiyar, and a portion where where the instruction is given by Lord Shiva to these rishis is called Upadesa Saram, Upadesa Undiyar, and that was under the request of Muruganar. Bhagavan undertook to write this 30 slokas, which clearly gives the teachings of Vedanta from all the first half 1 to 15 slokas, and 16 to 30th sloka. It is all about Bhagavan's core teaching, Bhagavan's recommendation for ripe sadhakas in form of Vichara Marga, Atma Vichara, which was the direct teaching of Bhagavan. So this is how Upadesa Saram came about, and we saw all the details about the genesis in the first three videos. We've been again and again talking about it, how it came about, and also we saw about the first 15 slokas in the last session, and to some of the margas in which Bhagavan had given instruction in the first 15 slokas is that he starts off with karma marga. In karma marga, he says karma is jata, so on its own it can't do anything. That is why the rishis were not able to get whatever they wanted just by karma alone, without the bhakti towards the Lord, without the acknowledging the personal deity. And he also said karma has got the tendency to make you repeatedly do the same thing. Even after the karma is done, after the fruits are exhausted, the nature of the karma, the vasana stay in form of seed, and they will come up again and impel you to do the same thing again and again and again, and which means it's pushing you into a great danger called samsara, and you will never be able to come out by doing this kind of karma. So the third song, he goes and says, okay, fine. If at all you have to do karma, all of us have to do some karma. Especially in those days, whatever he was talking to the rishis of Daruka forest, they were all Vaidika karmas. Today, our karmas are mixed. There are some Vaidika karmas here and there, but mostly our karmas are all Laugika karmas. So our idea is to avoid as many karmas, as much karma as we have to do, and do only those that are mandatory to be done. So even if you have to do such karmas, Bhagavan says, let the bhavana of Ishvara Arpitam be there in the karma that we do. So once we do that Ishvara Arpitam, I see we say everything is dedicated to the Lord. I'm here to do the karma. I will do the karma to the best of my ability. I'll just do it and leave it. I won't be bothered about the result of what the karma gives me, whether it is success or not. Let it be according to the niyama, according to how it is destined to happen, according to how Ishvara gives the phala. Let the phala come to me in whatever way it has to come. So such karma is called nishkamya karma. So when we do that nishkamya karma, it gives you chitta suddhi. It does not necessarily give you any sayugyam or anything like that, but the purpose is for the cleansing our mind. Once the mind becomes pure, it becomes ready to leap to the next marga, next bhava, next higher bhava, or whatever, which in this case of Upadesa Saram is the Bhakti Marga introduced by Bhagavan. So Bhagavan says, okay, now that you're settled well in the Karma Marga, you understood the nature of Karma, start into the Bhakti Marga, where he talks about the various types of bhaktis available, like Puja, Japa, Dhyana, and all that. Introduce how they are, each one is better than the other, how Dhyana is better, the highest, and things like that. All the details which we recounted last time, in the last few sessions. We were able to do that. So that is about that is introducing the bhakti and the marga of bhakti. And then Bhagavan used to say even how to do the dhyana that we do on Ishvara. That is how it should be completely uninterrupted, like Ajyadaraya Srotasa Samam. So he talked about how we should really benefit from this marga we have chosen by making it continuously, by doing it continuously. And then he goes on to say that of all the bhava, the best bhava is to cultivate the ananya bhava along with the Lord. Like I am different. Slowly, the bhava that I am different and the Lord to whom I am praying is different has to give way to I and my Lord are one and the same. This is the highest culmination of bhakti. Bhagavan calls it parabhakti. So this parabhakti is what we should aim for. We saw that in elaboration in the previous session also. Whoever wants can have a study of that or hear that one more time and get it in the mind very clearly. Okay. After that, Bhagavan says, okay, fine. We have talked about Bhakti Yoga, we have talked about Karma Yoga, and there is another Marga called Raja Yoga, and finally the Jnana Yoga will also come in. And Bhagavan says, what are all these yogas about? Bhagavan says, all these are one and the same ultimately. The only sole purpose of all these yogas to suit according to each one according to their own temperament or their own interest or taste can follow can choose the path of the yoga they want. So Bhagavan says, ultimately, what the purpose of all this yoga is to stay within yourself without rising as the I. So to be within yourself without rising up as an individual ego is the sole purpose of all this yoga. So that is staying put in the heart without rising up is karma yoga, it is bhakti yoga, it is jnana yoga, it is raja yoga, all that yoga. Bhagavan is someone in without any mincing of words, he has given it straight that the purpose of all what we are trying to do is to stay within the heart without rising up as an individual I. So, having said that, Bhagavan started the marga of Raja Yoga, where he said there are two. You can by means of pranayama, that is by means of restraining the breath, the mind will also get restrained. This is a way of restraining the mind, and why this happens is because both mind and the breath have a same source from where they issue forth. So when one is controlled, the other is controlled, and as we saw, it is easier to control the breath than trying to control the mind, because breath is available for us to put it into use. It's a little grosser. Breath is a grosser form of the mind. So mind is subtle. So you can do the pranayama. And Bhagavan had given us a clue, which is not in this sloka, but generally Bhagavan used to say this pranayama does not necessarily mean you have to do a very structured, you have to sit with a very high guru and learn about the techniques of pranayama, how many matras of how many units of breath you have to stop, how much to release, how much to retain, and all that. All that is fine, but that is not the aim for us. That we don't need that much. I mean, our aim is only for restraint of the mind. For the state of the mind, if you keep watching the flow of the breath in and out, that is enough. Just sit and watch the breath coming in, going out. Just let the focus be on the breath. And when the focus is on the breath, it won't seek anything else. It will be always watching the breath, and the mind will become some. Because it is being watched, the breath will calm down. And whenever the breath calms down, the mind immediately calms down. Even in the time of sleep, our we do end up breathing, but our breathing becomes very minimal in the time of deep sleep. I'm not talking about the deep dream sleep, where it can be violent from time to time based on the content of the dream. But during the deep sleep, when the mind completely calms down, the breath is there at that time only to a very little extent that is needed for the survival of the body. And so, because it's so low, the mind is controlled and the mind does not issue forth during the time of deep sleep. So, having said this, finally Bhagavan says, the one yogi who has achieved this state of not non-issuance of the mind, that is, who stays in his pure state of being without raising as ego, for him, he could have controlled, achieved that state by any means. But could have achieved it by means of Raja Yoga Marga, Bhakti Yoga Karma, whatever mode, it does not matter. But once that is achieved, he has nothing more to do. He has achieved, he has done whatever needs to be done in a lifetime. He has achieved. He has no more birth. He has crossed, he has transcended the ocean of samsara. So this is the 15th sloka we saw. So up to 15th sloka, uh, we have seen the marga of of the three paths, which are karma, bhakti, and Raja Yoga Marga. And from the 16th, we start the Jnana Yoga Marga, the royal path as taught by Bhagavan to us. This is the royal path that is available to all of us, and Bhagavan has elaborately taught to us. This is the core teaching of Bhagavan, and so in all the ultimately he will bring people. He will start according to each one's propensity or each one's inclination. He will start with that marga. He may prescribe karma to some people, bhakti to some people, or the breath control, etc. to some people. But he will direct them all finally to this path, because this is ultimately necessary to gain the final moksha that we are aiming for. Without this, in one form or the other, this has to feature. There is no way about. There is no two ways about it. So all the other margas are aid to prepare a sadhaka to come to the state of chitta suddhi, to the state of purity. But necessarily, we have to understand the marga of jnana, the vichara, and put it into practice. So, from 16th song onwards, Bhagavan gets into that marga of Atma Vichara. So, in 16th song, Bhagavan says, Drishyavaritam chittamatmanaha chitvadarshanam tatvadarshanam is the 16th song. Drishya varitam. Drishya means that which is seen. That is the object of the word. Varitam, being set aside. Okay. Or when we open the eyes, we come to see so many different things. We are always seeing something or the other. And so, Drishya varitam, set aside seeing anything like that. Not only, whenever in Vedantic language or in teachings like this, whenever an eye is used as an example, all the five senses are used. Whenever you see something with an eye, I'll give if that is given as an example. Whenever you smell something with the nose, whenever you feel something with your skin, whenever you hear something with the help of your ears, and all the indriyas, the actions of all the indriyas come into picture. Whenever when you taste something with your tongue, all these all the jnanendriyas come into picture. So when we say, so when the example says drishya varitam, it not only means seeing object of the world, feeling object of the world through any one of the window that we have in form of the panchendriya, of this jnanendriyas, pancha jnanendriyas. So here he says, drishya varitam chittam atmanah. Chittam atmanah, the mind is itself. So without seeing outside world, Chitva darshanam, tattva darshanam, he says. So, Chitva darshanam, Chitva is nature of consciousness. Darshanam is seeing or finding or knowing. That is tattva darshanam. Tattva is the reality. So what is Tattva Darshanam? What do we mean by saying knowing reality? Knowing reality is Chitta Darshanam, Tattva Darshanam, nature of consciousness. Knowing the nature of finding or knowing the nature of consciousness is the Tattva Darshanam. So knowing ourselves is knowing or being ourselves. Here, that is what it means. So here Bhagavan says, Drishya Varitam, leave seeing things out on the outside world, turn yourself deeply towards yourself, and be focused only on the light of your mind. So, Chitva Atmanam. So, setting aside the mind itself, being focusing on the mind. That is known as the Atma Vichara Marga. Bhagavan has actually given a most simple form of Atma Vichara Marga. And here, one thing is implied in this sloka, which is explicitly mentioned in the Tamil version. Veli Vishayangalai Vittu Manam Tan Oliyuru Ordal is a word which is not explicitly mentioned here, but it is implied. It's obvious it is implied. So, Veli Vishayam means outside objects, leaving out all the outside object and turning the attention inside and focus on your own light. This is the most important. It's a two-step approach that we are talking about here. One is leaving out external objects, leaving out seeing the external objects. And after leaving out seeing external object, the process is not yet complete. The reason for that is leaving out seeing external objects alone cannot necessarily give you take you to the final step, because every day during our deep sleep, because the mind is dead, because the mind is gone into laya, we are giving up seeing external objects. But we wake up in the morning promptly, how being prompted by our rising vasanas. These are all our samskaras. Our samskaras come into work. All our old tendencies are there in form of, are put in laya, abeyance, in form of vasanas. And the vasanas come out again. Whenever the vasanas rise up, show its head out, we come back to normal life. Our tranquil state of deep sleep is lost and we come into the violent state of either dream or jagrat. So this alone is not enough, because it is achieved every day in the deep sleep, but nobody is becoming a jnani in a deep sleep or getting self-realization in deep sleep. Why? Because self-realization, for it to take place, the second step of you have to know yourself consciously. Whereas in the state of deep sleep, your mind goes into non-existent mode, not because of the effort that you made, not because of you consciously understood the mind and the mind subsided. No, it happens so because the mind becomes tired after the day's activity. First, the physical body gets tired and it falls. Only the subtle body keeps working. When the subtle body works, what happens? The dream is going on. The mind itself conjures up its own universe, its own world. The physical world is not there, but the mental wave, the manovritti, happens and it appears like a full-fledged universe. And this is a very important subject on which this is an incidental note I'm working on currently, and this is the foundation of physics, quantum mechanics, and Vedanta is coming out very beautifully when you start studying subtle world and the gross physical world, and how the subtle world becomes the gross physical world. All this explanation is given beautifully. The experiments of quantum physics are so beautifully coming out, where the wave, sometimes they say everything that you see has got both a wave characteristic as well as the particle characteristic. Is a wave and when it is why it is a wave and why it is a particle, can it be both? All this physics is not able to answer. It is going outside the realm of science. They are struggling now even to find out the final entity called singularity and all that, the theory of everything and all that. They are struggling. But Vedanta, with the help of Vedanta, if you are able to see this, I'm able to now come to a very beautiful understanding about how the equation, the beautiful equation written by Erwin Schrödinger, and The great hypothesis given by Louis de Broglie. All this, how they are all coming into picture and how they are beautifully working. Because you have to understand how the waves that you are talking about is the dream. In the dream state, everything is mano vritti, they are all waveforms. And when the mano vritti in form of atma, in the presence of a consciousness, collapses, it becomes our gross world. This is what we have been seeing in this study called Drishti Srishti Vada. Bhagavan clearly says, if it's for only for the Manda Adhikaris, that is the beginning entry level Adhikaris, where a Krama Utpatti has been given. That is, first there is a God, he creates the world, and human beings come into the world, and we are all living there, and we are all seeing the world through our Indriyas, and all that is there. This is only for people who have very low amount of maturity, who are not yet understood at least even the fundamentals of the path of Vedanta, as taught by Bhagavan and Upanishads. So, but for such people who have come to Bhagavan, he always used to take the Vada called Drishti Srishti Vada. First, there is Drishti. There is no world or anything. First, there is sight, and that sight brings about the world. This is what is talked about, and this is what is being said about, talked about by scientists like Erwin Schrödinger, Niels Bohr, de Broglie, and other people who say how suddenly when somebody is seeing the experiment, what happens is the wave nature collapses and it becomes particle. This is exactly the concept of Panchikaranam taught 2500 years ago in Vedantic science. They said when the Atman witnesses, that is, when the sight goes out, Drishyam goes out and sees and conceives some external objects, and when that conception in form of mental waves is illuminated by the Atman, immediately the gross objects are getting formed. This is how the wave becomes particle when an observer is there. So there is a beautiful connection, but unfortunately, the scientific community are not able to proceed beyond the point of observation. They are not able to intuit the Atman. So I'm very seriously doing my work on this subject currently, and I'll be writing a paper shortly on this topic, quantum physics and quantum mechanics and Vedanta, how they are one and the same, how the approach is different, and how Vedanta finally gives a culmination which physics or science on its own will never ever be able to give, because science as a realm of study has got a very rigid boundary beyond which it cannot go. The intuition of Atman is extremely needed, without which you cannot complete the study, and the reality of the world, which physics is trying to find out desperately, at the aid of Vedanta is mandatory, is needed, compulsory. And how beautifully they blend together and how they give the final understanding. This is what is given in Drishti Vada. Bhagavan teaches this Vada. So here also, when we see in the dream, in the state of dream, all this is happening. That is how a dream world is getting projected. That is how the waking world is also getting projected. First, the mind conceives it in form of waves, and the waves, the consciousness fills up the mind waves, manovritti, and it grossifies, and panchikaranam process takes place, and it becomes the gross physical world. This is how our world is there. Otherwise, when you don't see anything, it is not there. It may be a joke. A lot of people might not understand. When Niels Bohr took this line of investigation, Einstein used to make fun. Okay, I turn my head and don't see the moon. Do you mean to say that moon is not there? Ultimately, they proved through experiment, yes, when you don't see the moon is not there. So, the full force of Drishti Srishti argument or Drishti Srishti method of creation is coming into power, is coming into understanding. This is called Utpat Srishti, that is simultaneous creation. It is not Krama Srishti, like the one where a God is assumed, God creates, and then we all, the humans, the jivas come, and they all see the objects created by the God. No, that is for the sake of beginners. But when you talk about this kind of a Drishti Srishti Vada is put into use, which is exactly Bhagavan's teaching through and through in Ulladanarthan. It's fully the Siddhanta that is established is called Vivarta Siddhanta, and the postulate is Drishti Srishti Vada. This is what Bhagavan teaches. So that is what we are seeing here in the form of dream. And now we wake up from the dream every day. The process still, we are still not gone to the self. Why? Because the second part of the sloka here, that is, leave out external, seeing externalities and turn your attention and keenly focus on the feeling of I. This is very important step to complete the process of Atma Vichara. Leaving out externalities, as we saw, happens in time of trance. In time of you can take some narcotic substance, go into a trance mode, and your mind will get suspended and all that, but you will come back again. Similarly, you do prana, you go into manolaya by means of doing heavy, very rigorous pranayama. Mind will stop. It will go into laya, but it will rise up. It will get woken up by samskaras. It will come back. So, but in order to complete the process, right in the first sloka of this marga, Bhagavan is very clearly laid out. Stop seeing, give up all externalities. Don't just completely withdraw yourself away from objects of the world and focus all your attention on the first person I, the rising I. Because we are not, our idea is to transcend the rising I and go to the state of being. But right now, we have to somehow use this rising I as a doorway and go inside to the our final resting place. And in order to do that, we have to focus all our attention singularly on this first person called I, the rising I. Once that is done, then we'll fall back. The I will, in the next few slokas, Bhagavan will say, what will happen if you do that? The I, because of which being constantly under observation, will fall. And where will it fall? It will fall in its own source, which is Satchitananda. Where this sloka, the 16th sloka, Bhagavan, it's a beautiful, important sloka, because once the sloka, concept of the sloka is clearly understood, it means that who am I teaching taught by Bhagavan is understood well. Otherwise, not. Because who am I is understood by so many people in so many different ways. Some people sit and use it as a japa mantra, who am I, who am I, who am I, and all that. And some people completely get it wrong and focus on totally unwanted things. They always reside in the third person, second or third person, whereas this sloka clearly teaches the method of the first person focus. Drishyavaritam chittamatmanah chitvadarshanam tatvadarshanam. So, beautiful introduction to Jnana Yoga Marga given by Bhagavan is the 16th sloka, which is a very important sloka, and we have to get it. Not think, not only just study or chant, sit and sort of keep ruminating on the idea of the sloka, what is given in the sloka, again and again, it is internalized in the mind and left. Okay, theoretically, we have seen that we have to give up external objects and focus internally. How to do that? Only by means of steady practice of vichara, that is staying focused on the feeling of mind. So, over a period of time, these are complement to each other. When will I stop seeing external world? When you focus more on I. When will I be able to focus more on I? When you stop seeing external? This is paradoxical. This is how most Vedantic statements are. One is needed for other. How do you get it? By slow practice of both of them. Each one will start lending support to the other. This is like this is like going in a circle, but the circle will not be a circle once we start our practice. On theory, it will appear like a circle, going circuitous way, again and again, coming to the, for this, that, for that, this. But practice makes it totally a different game. When you start the practice, only one aspect of vairagya, which is not paying attention to the external objects, that is vairagya. So when you do that, when you withdraw all your attention away from the outside external activities by means of your the bala of your one pointed interest of your love for the self, once that is done, this will so the vairagya sets in, and the vairagya will give you enough strength slowly to move inside and focus on the feeling of I, which is vichara. So Start the practice of Vairagya, it will give strength to Vichara. And more that Vichara gets steady, you get Vairagya more and more. The inclination towards going towards external object will stop going more and more, which means you are gaining more and more Vairagyam. Look how beautifully one will complement to other only in practice, not in paper. You read how much ever in books. No. You will be able to appreciate the concept and all that, but you won't be able to feel any benefit just by reading from the book or just by reading the sloka. Bhagavan's Marga is all about practical. Bhagavan is never a theoretical person. He never teaches theory at all. To the maximum, he avoids theory. Unless somebody is very strongly oriented and asks him some pointed question, he will give some theoretical information. But even then, he will direct them to come to practice. Bhagavan's Mata is all about practice. So, the 16th song is to be understood, sitting calmly, the concept needs to be understood very clearly. To that extent, if we theorize, it is enough. Once that amount of theory is established in our mind, what we need to do is turn back, sit, and start the vichara. Start whatever is taught. Leave out external objects, start focusing on your own mind. This is all. If you want, if somebody is a strong mumukshu, if somebody is very strong, has great love for this kind of a thing, this is enough. This one sloka, he won't ask further. He won't even bother to venture to 17th sloka. For him, 16th sloka is given whatever needs to give him. Sum and substance of all the teachings of Upanishad is given here clearly. He will stop here. He will start the practice. So all these happens only to very people who are in a very high state of maturity or in a very high state of evolution in terms of their mental process. Like we saw in that small article that I had said last week, how Tilnai Swami, just one word called Iru from Bhagavan was enough. He did not even care to ask another question. He did not even need another answer from even Bhagavan. Bhagavan has already told this word Iru means be. Which means his question was whether I should be here or whether I should go to Pondicherry to look for a job. Bhagavan said Iru. And he took it in the philosophical sense. Who was able to do that? Because he had already done quite a bit of sadhana and he's ready. So when Bhagavan said Iru, be, said, be in this place is the answer that people, can I go, Bhagavan? No, be. All people around would have understood it to be, stay. Don't go to Pondicherry, stay here. But he took it, stay within your heart, don't raise a eye. And for the next 54 years of his bodily life, he was like that. He didn't come out he was sitting just on one small bench outside a house, a concrete bench, as we call it. It's called Pingnai, a concrete bench that is there outside the houses in those days. All houses will have, for the sake of wayfarers who are traveling by foot from one village to another, from one place to another. For the sake of those people, all houses used to have a small place called Pingnai, and it's for anybody who passes by. And he settled down in one of the Pingnai, in one of the houses, and that is all. The rest of the life, whatever food was given, take a little food. That's what. This is how a Tivira Mumukshu gets hit by one word, one Brahmastra. That word Viru was in it. Similarly, somebody who is a Tivira Bhakti, just the 16th sloka alone will be enough for them. God has clearly said, without any confusion, he said, Krishyavaritam Chitta Atmana Chitta Darshanam Tattva Darshanam. You say, what else I'm going? It's given. The entire Upanishad is condensed in 2 lines. Such is the brevity and beauty of what Bhagavan is teaching. Now, for other people, there are people like us. Where are we, and where are people like Chennai Swami? So we'll have to go. Bhagavan knows about all of us. We'll all keep talking hours together and ultimately come back to the same point, beat around the same subject. Doing this. What kind of poor souls that we are? But there is enough faith Bhagavan is given that if not today, one day or the other, whenever it is appropriate, we will also come. Bhagavan will do this. This is the only faith that we need in Bhagavan, because the amount of, you cannot go to the nature of the Swami or Muruganar overnight. It's not possible. Or Prakasam Pillai. So Prakasam Pillai did extreme amount of hard work. Muruganar just got it like that. Like each one is different. Mastan Swami, what did he know? He was just a small lad. He was wandering around the streets of this Madam village, and suddenly he was transformed. So many people, when Bhagavan was there in Virupaksha, when he was living in Virupaksha's case and Skandashramam, so many people, right on the first instance, they were hit by the thunderbolt of called Bhagavan. They were not able to come out. They were all ready. They were all prepared. And it was only for them, such people, Bhagavan took the avatara. He gave up came out from a state of being into a form of, the form of human, and he came to the Namalai, settled only for that kind of people, and for to immediately give for that kind of people, and for in a slow way to give for people like all of us, without exception, every one of them who is able to even say Namo Ramanaya, all of them are under the ambit of Bhagavan. Bhagavan has already written all these people. Bhagavan has already taken them as their own prey. So all just that one mantra called Namo Ramanaya, if somebody is able to pronounce that, we have come to Bhagavan, and Bhagavan has taken us. As we want it will happen, when it will happen, we don't know. Because it is Bhagavan's Icha, it's all. When we surrender, we don't look to Bhagavan. All we do. Let things happen in its own way. Let it progress the way it has to progress. So we have to come to that, and the 16 Islam is so helpful towards that. Something, Manasam tu kim margane krite naiva manasam marga ajavat. So he will build up from he has given the summon section in 16th and 17th. He says, Manasam, mind, tu, kim. Tu is generally a word of emphasis. It is Manasam tu, like with a forceful say, emphasize, like exactly in this case. Kim, what? Manasam to kim, margane krite. Inquiry krite is made. Na eva, naiva is the word used in the song. Na eva, manasam. It means not eva at all, manasam, mind. Marga arjavat. Marga is path, and arjavat is direct path. So, what does it mean? Manasam to kim. What is this mind? If that inquiry is made, to be found, there is no mind. When an inquiry is made into what is this mind, it will be found that there is no mind at all. This is the direct path for self-realization. So far, in all the other paths we talked about, we called, Bhagavan has mentioned that they are aid, purifying requirement, like karma, like nishkamya karma and all that. They are all aids. Here Bhagavan says, this is the direct path. Understand this clearly. Manasam tukim. When you sit back and start the inquiry, okay, we are talking about something called mind. What is this mind? Is the inquiry doing? And when such an inquiry is made, we found out, slowly we'll go to one sheet of the other, we'll analyze the mind in its threadbare and find out, no, I'm not able to see anything called as mind. So what happens? It's very clear that established that there is nothing called mind. In verse 16 it is said, mind has to investigate within itself. Tan Oli Uru Odal, as I told, seeing itself, that is focused on itself. What happens? The mind. Then this is the working method described in 16th sloka. And the mind has to pose itself the question, what is this mind? And seek the answer. It will be found there is no separate entity called mind. Again, this is only a symbolic way of saying you have to pose the question, what is this mind? Just being in the mind, at the level of mind itself, is that question. That question is automatically asked. So what happens? The mind which is pseudo. Mind does not have an existence. Bhagavan will make it clear in slokas in Ulladu Narpadu very clearly, very beautifully. We'll come to that whenever. Uh, I think it's high time after we finish this Upadesa Saram, we'll start off our journey into this Ulladu Narpadu, because that is where quite a lot of philosophical teaching, I mean, quite a lot of the concepts of teachings of Bhagavan will come into a picture. So now in this sloka it says very clearly, Manasam to Kim, Margane, what is this? If the inquiry is made, Naiva Manasam, Naiva Manasam, Na Eva Manasam. There is nothing called mind. There is only uh, no mind state is reached, and this is the direct path for everyone. So first understand 16th sloka theoretically, sit well, understand, and now let's come into the practical mode. Let's start to put the 16th sloka, the essence of 16th sloka into practice. And what does it mean by putting the 16th sloka into practice? It means sit back and try to focus. Now that the focus, because of the result of the 16th sloka, the focus is on the mind, on the first person feeling called I. Let the focus be strongly established in that first person feeling called I. Slowly we'll find what is this? We're talking about mind. There's nothing called I see nothing called mind. So we'll be able to conclude there is nothing called mind. This is the goal. This is the direct path of Atma Vichara. This is the crux of the technique called who am I? Who am I? Without why the question who am I? Only when the mind goes out of itself, of the I, in order to bring it back to the I, this who am I is given. So this who am I in general is a clue. It is not a question, it's a clue. What? Okay, now that the mind is gone, I was sitting in meditation of I. Now I'm seeing some external, my mind is gone. It's jumped to some object, it's gone to in thought of some old friend of mine. Now, immediately what I say, I realize, no, I'm going on, reading away from my path. What's the question I ask? To whom is this happening? To whom all these thoughts are coming? Obviously, the answer will be to me. Then I say, oh, to me, who am I? So the focus is now coming back to the I. The purpose of who am I question is only to remind you of the I and to remind you that you should be always be in the feeling called I. It is not a question like an English language question. Who am I? I'm the manager of this company. I don't know. Who am I is only to drive you towards the feeling of I. That is the purpose of this question, who am I? And Bhagavan wantedly used the word who am I and not any other terminologies, self-inquiry. No, he never used like that. He used the direct word who am I, because who is important, I is important. So who am I? That I should bring your remembrance towards the most important part of your vichara, which is the 16th sloka, focusing on your own light, which is the rising I, the ego. So in order to turn yourself, this is why my question was established and formulated and given to us by Bhagavan. So people who have not understood this who am I properly can have different kind of interpretations on it and go on a totally wrong path. And they may even think, what is this? Bhagavan is giving this kind of advice to his Shishyas. Not this. How can this? Vedanta is not talking anything. Vedanta is saying different language. Bhagavan is saying something else. This won't work. There are a lot of people who used to say Bhagavan is already a fire, burning fire is already achieved it, but his teachings might not be useful for all these people. So you have to take the classical Vedantic marga of neti or whatever for various people. What do you think is the reason for that is they have not understood the the pulse or the current behind the technique taught by Bhagavan. So let us not fall into the trap. Let us even people have to see after reading Upadesa Saram thoroughly make this mistake because they go into a superficial mode or they probably did not have somebody to elucidate the statement to them clearly. Whereas, fortunately, good Clarity is given by all our people, including right from Bhagavan to Muruganath to Sadhu Om Swamigal to so many other people, to Lakshmana Sharma, who has given us beautiful, in lovely way. He has given this book called Mahayoga, which is a must read for all Bhagavan's, who are all interested in Bhagavan's teaching. Mahayoga, the book Mahayoga is mandatory. It is by the author called Who. Lakshmana Sharma used to call himself as who was a pseudonym who was using to write, and so many other people. So Prakash and priceless clues as to understand what is Purana is. And so let us not make the mistake of getting very superficial in the study of Upadesa Saram. Rather than that, everywhere, since it is aphoristic, there are a lot of internal implications and in current available everywhere. Let us tap into wherever we are able to and make full use of the small work for the Sahara. So in 17th Sloka, he said, just sit back and focus on the feeling called I and try to introspect. What is this I? What is this manas? Finally, you easily conclude there is nothing called manas, and this is the direct path for all. This is what we should be doing. So this is the 17th sloka, where the 16th sloka is being put into a very strong practical mode. 18th sloka, we said, वृत्तयस्वहं वृत्तिमाश्रिताः वृत्तयो मनो विद्यहं मनः is the 18th song. Here, Vritya, thoughts, that is Vritti. Vritya is thoughts. Two, again, we use this variable, this kind of variable, two. But on the other hand, Vritya, Aham, Vritti, Aham Vrittim, that is the I thought. Aham is I, Vrittim is thought. Vrittim is anything, this Mano Vritti and all that, the waves that propagate in the mind. They are all mind waves, so they are all mind waves. Thought is nothing but a mind wave. So, Aham Vrittim, Ashrita, all dependent, Vrityah, thoughts, again, Mana, are the mind. Vidhi, Vidhi means know that. This is the Vidhi. This is the Vidhi given. Know that. Aham, meaning of I thought, the I thought is Mana, mind. So, it is thoughts alone constitute the mind. So, in the last song, we saw that there is nothing called mind. It is established. But still, because of the force of our habit, we keep thinking that there is something called mind. Because otherwise, how am I thinking without the mind? Right from a very young age, we have been taught to use the mind. So, what does all this mean? My teacher told me to use the mind, not to sit idle. Use the mind. Think. Don't sit idle. Think. Vedanta says, sit idle. Don't think. Where there is some huge amount of confusion happening here. So what happens? Mind. We are so used to that. We are so used to the term called mind for a very, very long time. So what is this mind? We have declared it is not there, but still I'm not able to believe it yet. Okay, fine. Hypothetically, let us assume that there is something called mind. Now, come, sit back and clearly analyze that mind. Then you will come to know there is no physical entity called mind. When you sit back and analyze, there is no concrete entity called mind. Rather, there are thoughts. Because we understood thoughts are coming to us by dozens every second. So, all these thoughts put together collectively is known by the name mind. Whereas mind on its own does not have an existence, it's only a bundle of thoughts. So, the more the thoughts drop off, the more the amount of thoughts gain off, we are going to get the mind which is becoming more and more purer. Again, this term mind is used here only for the sake of language, only for the sake purpose of communication, not for accepting that there is something called mind, but because of the force of habit that we have, that we all have for a long time, we are not able to immediately give up even though we are able to understand that we are not able to see a mind based on vichara, we still think there is something called mind. Otherwise, how are we able to think or do vyavahara? It's only the thoughts that is occurring in the mind, and the collection of this multitude of this bundle of this thought is what is known as mind. Is thought in this song, even though there is nothing called mind. Thoughts is nothing but mind. So thoughts alone constitute mind, and they are all dependent on the I thought. This is a very important corollary that we have to study from this sloka. That is, first of all, there is this pristine pure I, or the pristine pure being consciousness bliss, which is what is art, which is what is in each and every one, in each and every body. That is what is reflected in form of consciousness, in form of Atma. Whose reflection? Brahma. They are all the same. Sun and their reflection. That reflection comes to us in form of Atma. So we become an individualized Atma. What is individualized Atma? The rising mind. So in every one of us, it is just like the analogy of the sun shining up in the sky, and you have 100 buckets filled with water. Each and every one, every bucket has a reflection of that sun. Not half the reflection here, everyone has a full reflection of the sun. In each bucket has one. The sun is the ever shining Atman. The water, the bucket is nothing but the body. The water is nothing but the mind. So the Atman shines by the name of mind for the sake of convenience in each of the body. This is what is known, and this Atman is ultimately God is nothing other than Brahman. But this Atman is used in by many ways. Like everything is localized as an Atman. My Atma, when I mean by my Atma, without at the time of my ignorance, I think when I talk about Atma, it is something like inside me. That is the feeling of I. The ego is what I think is Atma currently, because that is all I know. Everybody says myself, yourself, herself, himself, itself. All the self is nothing but Atma. But they are not the clean, the ultimate Atman that we have to learn. They are all, what do you call, they are all superimposed. They are all, the concept of one is mixed with other. The concept of the pristine pure Atman is mixed with the concept of the rising Atman, rising I. And the dharmas of each one is transferred to the other. This is why sometimes we say, my body is paining, my body is having trouble, my hand is paining. So we have a distinction. And sometimes we assume everything into ourselves. I came, I went. I didn't come, my body came. Sometimes we are able to use that language, sometimes we are able to use this language. It depends. It depends on, without any reason, we are using all this language. So language are deceptive in that sense. So all this because of the complete admixture of the pure Atman with the rising ego, because of and they are mistaking each one's dharma, superimposing on the other. All this adhyasa is taking place, and in a place where there is no adhyasa, where there is no misconception, there is nothing called life. There is nothing called transaction. There is no life. It's only because of this adhyasa the entire samsara is happening. In absence of adhyasa, everything is gone. And that state is pure Parabrahman. That state is Atman. So, this adhyasa is the only reason for all the mundane activities of world is taking place. So, in this song, it is said, the first thought that comes out is the I thought. Hence, know that I thought itself constitutes the mind. So when we talk of mind, if at all we have to give a meaning to the word called mind, it is the I thought, the first thought that comes out in form of the ego. The first thought is only known as mind. Nothing else is mind. So in the 18th song, he gives a little bit more clarity on the nature of, even though there is nothing called mind as per the 17th song, we assume that there is something called a mind. And what is that mind? The I thought is nothing but the mind. That is all the mind is all about. So, what is the so when we talk about Mano Nasa, if you have to destroy that mind, what should we be doing? We have to only destroy the I thought, nothing else. We don't need to do any Herculean task beyond this. I mean, we don't need to really work up, get up in the morning, go to gym, do this work. First of all, take care of the body, and then sit in all kind of yogas and say, cross your head around your neck and do all this hatha yoga and do Raja yoga like breath construction, breath, holding the breath, managing the breath, and all that, or keep on doing. Being in puja all the time or doing the bhakti. The bhakti that we are talking here at this level is not ritualistic bhakti. This bhakti is love for self. That is always mandatory. Or we don't need to keep on doing some karma, like even though it is niskami karma, we don't need to keep on doing all the karma. All we have to do is just sit in a place and only solve the problem called I thought, understand what this I thought is, everything is done. Because the entire thing that we are assuming as mind is nothing other than the I thought. So that is Sloka 18. अहमयं कुतो भवति चिन्वतम् ऐपतत् ऐपतस्यहं निजविचारणम्. Here, what is means is aham, I am kuto, aham, I, the I thought that we talked about in the previous sloka. I am this kutah. From where? Bhavati takes birth. From where does this I thought takes place? Is the question that we are trying to pose. Chintaha on inquiry, chinvataha on that is on inquiry. Where does this I thought rise from? I, I is an exclamatory word. Aye, Atisulabhi say, Aye means, oh, so simple. Aye, patita, patati is false, it falls. Patati, aham, the individual I. Nija vicharanam. Nija is relating to oneself. Vicharanam means inquiry. So, on inquiring, from where this I thought takes its birth? Which is the place from this I thought comes out? Then the answer is no. I. The very I thought collapses. There is no I. So, we at a higher level in the 17th sloka, we try to find out mind and said there is no mind. Now, but we are wanting to know still what is this mind because of our force of habit. Now we concluded that I thought is nothing but mind. Now I need to solve the problem of I thought and I inquire what is the nature of this I thought? From where is the I thought rising? And he says, I. ऐपतति ऐपतत्यहम निज विचारणम ऐ पतति aham nija vicharanam. So relating to oneself, this is the vicharanam that we can do. See, how is this analogy? Is when we mistake a rope to be a snake, we are afraid of it, and we think it is a snake. No, I cannot go near it. It can cause harm to me. But when somebody passes by and he sees your predicament and he says, no, this is only snake. But okay, you think he's a learned man and he might know. Okay, muster some courage and go a little near and try to find out the examination. This is akin to examining the I thought. Now I have an appearance called I. I have a feeling called I. Similarly, there is an appearance called snake taking place. At this point in time, I do not know it is a rope. Similarly, at this point in time, I do not know this I thought is nothing but self. I am deluded as of now. But since somebody has given me a clue, this is not a snake, I am encouraged to investigate it further. I sit back, closely watch it. Maybe in dim light, I took that. I mistook it. On broad light, it is not going to. We are not going to mistake so badly. We are only going to mistake it due to the lack of proper light. So only due to this dim light, we are going to mistake it for a snake. Similarly, only due to the condition called avidya, only due only due to this condition called avidya, we are seeing, we are mistaking the eye to be the rising eye to be the original eye to be the rising eye. Because there is a condition called avidya. Similarly, there is a condition called twilight or semi-darkness. It is neither fully dark like in sleep. In sleep, it is fully dark. We are not seeing anything. In Jagrat, it's fully awake and we are seeing all things. Similarly, in broad daylight, the rope is going to show up clearly. In total darkness, we are going to see nothing at all. It is only due to this semi-darkness, this low level of light, that we are seeing something. We are mistaking the rope because all the characteristic of the rope is not clearly seen, but it's taking the shape because we have previous memory of seeing snakes somewhere, and this rope appears like a snake. And as of now, I do not know it is a rope. I don't even have a suspicion that it is rope. I know I've concluded that it is a snake, but until somebody, somebody who passed by or who told me, no, it is not a snake. It is only a rope. Now, some kind of thought is kindled in my mind. Why he could be right. Similarly, the guru comes to us and says, why? This is not the mind. This is only the pristine pure eye. Upadesa Saram is given to us. This is like the Apta Vakyam of the learned person who is passing by, who is already knows the truth and knows that I am unnecessarily troubling myself by thinking it is a snake when it is only a rope. Similarly, Guru, well, Bhagavan comes up and gives us Upadesa Uvidiyar and works like that. Upadesa Saram and works all like all the other work, who am I and all that. And says, why? Why are you afraid? There's nothing called samsara. There's only one pristine pure I. And you are always that. Similarly, just like how the rope is always rope. You are always that pristine pure because Mahavakya declares Tat Kvam Asi, Aham Brahma Asmi, all that. So there is any fear. So similarly, now after we find out that it is only oh, now I'm clear. I somehow gather muster some courage and move the appearing snake and find out no, it is only a rope, and I'm going to have a beautiful laughter at myself, at my own sthiti. How foolish I was. Similarly, when we do our vichara, that's exactly what is going to happen. Aye, it's going to come to that. Aye, patiti, patati. Ahi patatyaham. This is what is the truth. Oh, no. Exclamation only. We are going to exclaim at our own state of foolishness. Our avidya is getting destroyed. Now, this is what I start in this song to practice. So, first, we try to examine the mind. Okay, we are able to say that there is nothing called mind, it is declared. Then still we have the feeling of mind, so we try to scrutinize what this mind is, and we are able to understand only I thought is called mind. Now our attention is focused, narrowed down further to the I thought, and I want to know what this I thought is, and I find out that's not being called I now. This is why I earlier declared there's nothing called mind. But I needed further clarification. Now I am saying there's nothing called I. So what is the conclusion here? Do the vichara. Practice is important here. The entire 16 sloka 16 to 30 is all about practice, especially 16 to 20 is all about the practice we make, the persistent, the consistency that we show in our vichara. And this vichara can be done anywhere. We don't need a specific time, a specific pose, a specific asanam, a specific place, anything to do that. Wherever we are, we can, because that I feeling we are carrying everywhere we go, we cannot be separated from that I feeling. And all Bhagavan says is focus on the right is there. Whether you go to Himalayas or whether you stay in Arunachala or whether you stay in a busiest business district in your city or town, how does it matter? The eye is always there and you are always eligible to watch the eye. Leave out externalities with the help of Vairagya, 16 sloka. Give out all external thoughts and focus on this eye. That focusing on the eye is elaborated in this 18th, 19th song. So in this 18th, it's 19th sloka. So then finally we're going to say I patati aham. We're going to be laughing at ourselves at the end. And so is this what I was struggling for all these days? There's nothing. What Bhagavan says. I hope we can all have a great laughter within ourselves and make fool of ourselves, ridicule ourselves at that point in time, sooner than later, with the help of the grace of Bhagavan. Bhagavan should give us the strength for each and every one of them to forever sit in this state of vichara. I think we'll conclude with this song from 16, 17, 18, 19, because they form a beautiful logical sequential flow degree. And the entire Upadesa Saram is like that, and Bhagavan will cleanly step us as we have seen. We'll take a step by step into the next into the next thing that we need to know. Each sloka will progress so beautifully in such a way that we can understand the entire Upadesa Saram once very clearly, without doubt. Take your time. Take your time to understand. Simultaneously sit in practice. Try to sit in practice. And once you finish it, close the book, keep it aside. And sit in practice. Because you have internalized it, everything is going to come from within. Sit in practice. Nothing else is needed. No other book is needed. We should read Upadesa Saram and things like that. Because they are written by Bhagavan, we have to read. One, and number two is the tattvas of what we are studying here are going to be more explicitly given in Ullavinatpada. So our doubts will get totally destroyed. They'll all vanish summarily. So we need to do that. But beyond that, we don't need to keep on the blessing. We don't need to keep on studying more and more volumes of it. To satisfy all our ego. What else can we say? It's all for the sake of ego that we are trying to read many things. When everything is saying the only thing, everything ultimately comes to the same point. So let's get beautifully immersed in Upadesa Saram. This is the final, the crux of everything is given here, especially from Sloka 16 to Sloka 20, and the beautiful nuances of it from Sloka 20 to 21 to Sloka 30. Everything is done beautifully. But the essence is given here, the filtered essence of Vedanta, of all the Upanishads, of all the 108 principal Upanishads, is featured just in these few songs. We have all that Bhagavan, in all his grace, has given the Upadesa Saram for us to follow and study. So it's also easy. More.